He's been called the future, a Renaissance man, and a genius. Zhou Xinfang was a famous Peking opera singer during the 20th century in China. He took a stand in history by criticizing the actions of China's leader, Mao Zedong, during China's Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution, with the play he wrote, High Roy Submits His Memorial. That play pushed for sentiments of pre-Mao China and one without suffering. Zhou Xinfang was born on January 14, 1895. Zhou started his opera training when he was only 6 years old, and his first stage performance was at the age of 7. This awarded him the nickname Qi Lang Tong, the 7-year-old child. When he was 12, his stage name changed to the Unicorn Kid. At the age of 13, he started to perform with famous singers of that era such as Mei Langfang and Tang Xingpei. Zhou often played the old male in the plays he was involved in. Zhou also helped revitalize the art form by combining elements of Western production, such as introducing the role of the director and helping modernize the opera. He even developed his own way of performing that was highly expressive and came to be known as the Qi style. He went on to become the president of the Shanghai troupe of the Beijing Opera. He wrote and directed many plays, and throughout his lifetime was involved in over 600 productions. On April 19, 1959, he was asked to write a play for the government, which some consider to be the start of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. China, up until the 19th century, had been one of the most advanced nations on the planet for thousands of years. Its emperors had power over an expansive domain, and its culture was far more complex than that of European nations. But as Europe's economy started to strengthen through the Industrial Revolution, China started to fall behind. The trend continued until 1911, when the government collapsed. And for all of its shortcomings, China, as its success wavered, still maintained a sense of nationalism in the state. This is precisely what allowed a leader like Mao Zedong to gain power. In time of despair, China's sentiments turned towards socialism and communism. It promised workers and farmers better lives and would help grow China's economy. At the front of this idealistic movement was Mao Zedong. In 1921, Mao Zedong and his Communist Party devoted themselves to restoring the supremacy and honor of China. What transpired was a brutal civil war against Mao and Chinese nationalists. Eventually, by 1959, Mao and his party had won. The People's Republic of China had been established. Mao believed in constant revolution. His first attempt at this revolution was China's Great Leap Forward. Mao started this leap in 1957, and its goal was to, within a course of 15 years, surpass Britain's economic superiority. He wanted to increase steel and agriculture production. The way he thought to do this was by using the people. He united the peasantry into a central workforce. It was described as going all out, aiming high, and achieving greater, faster, better, and more economical results in building socialism. After 3 years, the Great Leap failed. The steel and iron that was created wasn't productive, and the production of food grain plummeted. Many were left in terrible conditions, but they still remained devoted to Mao. Mao's next attempt at revolution would come 5 years later in 1966 with the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution, or as many refer to it as the Chinese Cultural Revolution. The goals of the Chinese Cultural Revolution were simple. He wanted to restore China's greatness and push China further and further away from capitalism, and more towards his interpretation of communism, Maoism. And after his policies failed, such as the Great Leap, Mao was facing heavy opposition. A subtle goal of the revolution was to extinguish this opposition. He wanted more loyal leaders, and he also wanted to revitalize the PRC. Being a revolutionary, Mao wanted the youth to experience what true revolution was like, and he wanted to make cultural systems such as healthcare and education more accessible for more than just the elite. The appeal of the rest of this revolution was apparent. Mao promised a classless society. He told the workers they would no longer be exploited, and this would all happen very fast. One of the underlying reasons for this revolution was for Mao to obtain unlimited power. He believed that the only way to achieve true change, true revolution, was to forget everything of the past and embrace the future. A future where he ruled omnipotently.
Universities were closed. Students burned their books. School children stopped studying. Dunce caps were placed on teachers' heads. Professors were placed against the wall. Ancient manuscripts and books were burned. Masterpieces of art were pasted by Maoist slogans. Ancient paintings were thrown away, destroying everything that wasn't linked with the name of Mao Zedong. These ignorant youngsters ruined many treasures. That's how young men and women were transformed into obedient and blind tools of reaction and dictatorship.
Revolutionary, Mao wanted the youth of China to know what true revolution was like. To do so, he took all students out of their education and transformed them into his own soldiers. Not a hard task, seeing as the youth had very impressionable minds. They were described by Mao as a clean sheet of paper, which one can draw the newest and most beautiful hieroglyphics. They were changed from innocent children to agents of war, the army of the proletariat. They were trained as soldiers and given Mao's Little Red Book, a book with quotations from Mao and essentially an instruction manual for the revolution. With Mao's chess pieces in place, the genesis of 13 million Red Guards was complete, and so was the beginning of a reign of turmoil in China. After targeting the youth's malleable young minds came the minds of intellectuals. Mao targeted free thought and those who promoted it. Subsequently, the Red Guards destroyed any type of art they could find. The Red Guard raided homes and took anything considered too bourgeois for this new China. Citizens were beaten in the streets, and the Red Guards captured their own parents and teachers, who they turned in to the government. People were forced to kneel down to the guards for what could sometimes be hours. Intellectuals were sent to camps up in the mountains. There, they held public executions, prisoners were held in caves, and some were put through rigorous public interrogations. Old Confucian thought had now been completely replaced with Maoism. All knowledge and art had been repurposed to be purely political. Any person who opposed this new culture was treated as worthless. Xia Jianying, a student at the time, described the feeling of worthlessness thusly. This was the worst kind of bitterness. You were constantly told you are against the revolution, so therefore you have no right to speak. You don't have freedom. You will have no future in this place. You will not have a good job. Everyone looks down on you. Although their actions were radical, not all the guards were. They were following blindly under Mao in fear of their own lives. Wu King, a young teacher during the revolution, recounted, "They would come up to me when there was no one else around and apologize and say they were forced to do it." They were following a mob mentality. A former Red Guard, Li Shoikan, describes, "It's like being pushed by a flood." The Great Proletarian Culture Revolution is a misnomer. The proletariat weren't represented, but rather taken advantage of. Furthermore, it was really cultural disintegration. Oxford Dictionary describes culture as the arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. When all intellectual manifestation and the thoughts of only one is regarded, it is no longer culture. Zhou Xinfang and other playwrights realized this. When Zhou Xinfang was asked to write a play by Zhao Yang, vice head of propaganda, to celebrate 10 great years of government and to reflect how great the government was, it provided Zhou Xinfang with an opportunity to speak out against Mao in allegorical fashion. With a new paradigm in China that restricted free speech, writers turned towards history to comment on their issues. They couldn't be persecuted if they wrote on history because it had already happened and couldn't be opinionated, at least on the surface level. By October, Zhao had finished his play A Hairoi Submits His Memorial. This play was about Hairoi, a Chinese official during the Ming Dynasty, and in this play, a Hairoi was a hero, a Confucian hero. The story revolved around those in power in the court, and similarly to Zhao, Hairoi had to write messages thanking the emperor while constant problems, like famine, loomed over the country while its emperor had rule. The subtext about Mao's establishment was apparent. Hairoi, being a hero who is Confucian, contrasts Mao's recently implemented Maoist ideals, implying Mao is anything but a hero to China. With the play focusing around the court, it gave Zhao the opportunity to talk about what was right and what was wrong in judicial context. And much like in Hairoi's time, China was facing a famine, and in Mao's China this had been caused by the Great Leap. Zhao, through his play, was commenting on Mao's instability, now the people of China shouldn't be thanking him. To be effective to this point, Zhao exaggerated parts of the real history. He displayed his messages in the guise of congratulation. However, many argue that Zhao had no intention of commenting on the party with his play. But Zhao himself said while creating Hairoi, "The things on stage are historical stories, but through many excellent traditional pieces as well as new historical plays, one can still both reflect the historical face of a particular period and embody the spirit of the present." Most recently, I myself have created 2 new historical plays, namely with Justice accused Wang Qi and Hairoi Submits His Memorial. In these 2 plays, I made sure to take care of this point. Zhao took a stand in history by finding a way against great odds to stand up against Mao Zedong and his constant revolutions, namely the cultural, because he believed them to be wrong. Now I wish I could say that because of Zhao's plays, citizens of China realized Mao wasn't helping them and they stopped the revolution in its tracks, but that would be dishonest to the true history. For Zhao Xinfang was put in house arrest until his death in 1975. The Cultural Revolution wouldn't end until Mao's death in 1976. Although his actions didn't end China's suffering, he did inspire others to continue his initiative. Shortly after Zhao's play, the genre of the historical drama became increasingly popular in the opera, namely using Hairoi to display the shortcomings of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. He inspired other playwrights and intellectuals to speak out and tell China that Mao's actions were not right. His legacy lived on through his children and through his style of performing that he developed. As well, he was given a statue for his achievements. He showed the people around him that Mao's revolution was not a classless one, but rather a lifeless one. He was a hero, a playwright, a man. He was Zhao Xinfang.